Join us as we venture back to New Zealand's highest peak, Aoraki, Mount Cook, uncovering the awe-inspiring beauty of this national park and the stunning landscapes that surround it. Throughout all 4 seasons, join me, a local tour guide, on a year-long adventure through the park's most iconic tracks and trails, uncovering hidden gems and unforgettable experiences.
Discover charming nearby townships as we explore and savor mouth-watering local cuisine and fresh produce. As a special highlight in this video, we embark on an overnight hiking adventure in the national park, getting up close to the country's largest glacier, known as the Tasman Glacier. We stay in a cozy alpine hut and are visited by some playful locals, the Kia, New Zealand's charismatic yet endangered alpine parrot, where we interact with them in astonishing numbers.
Join us on the return to Aoraki Mount Cook National Park, the realm of New Zealand's largest mountain and glacier. This journey starts in the region of Canterbury on New Zealand's South Island during the last heavy snowfall of winter 2023. Arriving in the national park, freshly covered in snow, is nothing short of magical. Here I take advantage of this winter wonderland by venturing out on its most iconic track. So I'm here on the Hooker Valley Trail in the Aoraki Mount Cook National Park. You might recognise this trail in the national park itself from a video that I released a little while ago called The Road to Aoraki Mount Cook. The thing is, I've been on this trail 4 times, and this is the very first time I've ever done it in the snow. Weather here in the Southern Alps can be pretty unpredictable. In the last week, we've had gale force winds, we have had torrential rains which led to flooding, we had a fire break out in the national park, and we had 2 days ago a blizzard. So I thought I'd take on this trail again for the 4th time, and this time I'll do it in the snow, something a little bit different. Explore this winter wonderland on my way to the Hooker Lake at the base of Aoraki Mount Cook. So it's about 5 kilometers each way, and I'll probably tackle it in around 2 hours, give or take. So there she is behind me, New Zealand's highest mountain, Aoraki Mount Cook, at 3,724 meters high. The name Aoraki, their Maori name, actually means cloud piercer, and with a bit of luck today, we've actually got no clouds covering the top of the mountain itself. Considering the weather we've had over the last week, I would say it's really, really lucky. Now, the only thing I have to watch out for today is potential avalanches, of course, and I have heard a few rumbles already this morning. Aoraki was the mountain that Sir Edmund Hillary, the first man to climb Everest, climbed in preparation for that back in 1948, and that's simply because Aoraki is approximately the same height as Everest from base camp. So he used this as a practice ascent, and then 5 years later in 1953 he climbed Everest. So that was Aoraki Mount Cook, New Zealand's highest mountain, and of course the Hooker Lake, which had frozen over. It was pretty cool to see like that actually, and it was good just to catch it before it was starting to melt. So I'd say in the next week or two that will be all liquid. Pretty cool.
Returning in the springtime, I decided to take on two of the lesser-known tracks in the national park with a fellow guide. The Governor's Bush Track is a short, shady forest track, a great place to spot native birds such as robins, fantails, and rock wrens. This track also connects to the Red Tarns track, which leads up to a series of alpine pools or tarns that reflect Aoraki Mount Cook and the surrounding Southern Alps. The only challenge is getting there first.
So up here at the Aoraki Mount Cook National Park with Becky.
Hey!
We're about to do the Red Tarns track. We've just done the Governor's Bush, and we'll head up to the Red Tarns themselves and get some nice views of the mountain Aoraki.
The track is a steady climb with multiple viewpoints which can be used as rest areas along the way.
So we've made our way from about 400 meters and we're almost at 1,000 meters now, heading up to just over 1,000 meters where the Red Tarns are. So it's pretty steep. You can see the views behind us here, the Hooker Valley. It's amazing. Alrighty, so we've made it up to the Red Tarns. How do you feel?
Yeah, good.
Alright, so we've got the sweat out. We're just had something to eat. Now we're going to head back down.
For those planning to travel from Queenstown, a company I occasionally work for and can recommend is Cheeky Kiwi Travel. I have provided a discounted promo code and link to their website in the description. On their Mount Cook tour, you can undertake the Hooker Valley track, or for a shorter option, the Kia Point track boasts amazing views.
So today I'm heading up to Kia Point, which is one of the smaller walks in the Aoraki Mount Cook National Park. Not a bad little walk for lunch break. You're looking about a half hour each way, or at least that's what the sign recommends. We'll see how quickly we can do it. And also we'll take in some amazing views of the Hooker Valley from up there. Been up there once before, so kind of know what I'm in for. So it's a warm late spring afternoon. It's getting to around 20 degrees Celsius. This time of the year is a great time to keep an eye and an ear out for avalanches, and I've already spotted one on the way through. So I'm up here at Kia Point with the beautiful Aoraki Mount Cook in the background there. We've got the Hooker Valley in the background there and the Mueller Glacier up above us there, the Mueller Lake below. This Mueller Lake was all once attached to this glacier here about 120 odd years ago. So this is now the moraine that we're standing on here, or the wall that's created by the debris and the movement of the glacier that forms this lookout and all the hills surrounding us.
Nearby, we stay overnight in the town of Geraldine, a worthwhile stop for visitors coming to and from Christchurch.
What's the name of the place?
Old Fields with Sue and John. They're the most lovely hosts.
In
Geraldine.
So here in the town of Geraldine in Canterbury, and we're about to stop off at one of the icons of Geraldine, which is of course the Barkers. And Barkers are known for their jams, their preserves. We're going to check out some of their array of these locally produced things.
Based out of Geraldine in the Canterbury region, Barkers is a well-known and trusted high-quality New Zealand-owned brand. Famous for their jams, conserves, dips, and cordial syrups, Barkers is a great place to pick up some locally manufactured goods. Great if you're planning a picnic in the nearby Aoraki Mount Cook National Park. In their Geraldine food store, you can sample the goods and try before you buy.
Bottoms up. So this is the Twizel with lime. One pot? A little more? Or is that right?
No, that's perfect. And then you need 6 parts water.
It's really good. Want to try?
Sure.
Alright, I'm going to try deer milk cheese for the first time. So we're in the town of Fairlie here in Canterbury, and we're about to go to the Fairlie Bakehouse, which is famous for having not only some of the best pies in New Zealand, some of the best pies in the world.
Another great stop to or from the national park in the Christchurch direction is the Fairlie Bakehouse, famous for their iconic pies.
Alright, Chicky, which one did you get?
For vegetarian.
Alright, go for it. Good. Show us the goods inside. Upside down. That's the roast veg. I got the ultimate steak, cheese, and bacon pie with pepper sauce, and it is amazing. Even the coffee looks good, and Miranda's got the the brownie, the cheesecake brownie.
Cheesecake brownie.
Chocolate cheesecake brownie.
So good.
Is it good? Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna get into some of that.
Have some.
All right.
With the lure of Aoraki Mount Cook calling us across the pristine glacial Lake Pukaki, we drive out to its base in the Tasman Valley. Here we undertake an overnight adventure in one of the most magnificent alpine landscapes on Earth.
Okay, so we are about to attempt the hike up to the Bull Hut here in the Aoraki Mount Cook National Park. They may be up to 60km/h gusts of wind tonight. You see, the thing is, the Bull Hut itself only has 3 spaces available, and we've reached here quite late in the afternoon, so if somebody else gets there before us, then we're resorting to use the tent that I've packed back here. But 60km/h winds don't sound great in a tent. The weather actually looks great right now.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful. Yeah. Worst case scenario, we've got some mats, so if the winds do get too strong tonight, we could always go into the hut itself and sleep on the floor with our mats. So, you know, there is always that as a worst case scenario. We don't want to put ourselves in any danger. This has been a trail that we've wanted to do for a long time. The Bull Hut itself sits up on top of the Tasman Glacier, New Zealand's largest glacier, and over another glacier called the Bull Glacier. So we're gonna get some spectacular views, and apparently the hut itself is known for visiting keas, which are our alpine parrots. So we might see some of those today as well. So I think it's going to be a pretty spectacular hike. We're about 10 kilometers each way, so it should take us about 3 to 4 hours to get up there. There is a little bit of a landslip, which we'll show on the way up, which we have to climb out of. So that's a little bit of elevation, but otherwise, most of the trail is a very, very slow, slight incline. So we've entered into our first avalanche zone, and you can imagine here in the wintertime or early spring, this would be pretty devastating around here if you had an avalanche come down, like this rock slide here that we've got. So we'll pass through a few of those zones. It's quite steep terrain and territory around here, so you really need to have your wits about you and keep your eyes and ears open to any sounds. So we've reached the next part of our journey here, and we're at the lookout of the Tasman Lake and the actual Tasman Glacier itself, New Zealand's largest glacier. The lake starts 7 kilometers back down that way, pretty much where we started our trail today. The lake itself was actually part of the glacier going back to the 1990s even. The glacier itself started to form some puddles in the late 1970s, and by 1990, the year of 1990, the first parts of the lake started to show. Ever since then, it's been retreating the glacier at approximately 200 meters per year, so about 6,000 feet per year, and that is growing. That retreat is now, in the last few years, averaging somewhere between 500 and 800 meters, depending on how warm the year is. So the glacier itself was huge glacier. Part of this valley here, for the last few thousand years, it pretty much survived through relative stability until the last 150 years or so, and then we started seeing temperature increases, which has averaged about 1.5 degrees Celsius since the start of the industrial era. The glacier itself will continue to retreat up into the hills there, and the lake will probably average out at a maximum of about 15 kilometers when it finally reaches to the hills, and then the glacier will continue to recede up into the mountains. You can see all this dirt that sits on top of the glacier, and due to the rate that the glacier is melting so quickly, the moraine walls, which are these lateral walls running either side of the glacier, made up of debris ground down by the glaciers when it was in a much larger state, they are now starting to collapse on top of the glacier, and that's why the first part of the glacier itself just looks like a big giant dirt pile. The next part of our journey is taking us up to quite a steep and treacherous part of the trip, and this is the part that we weren't sure about. I spoke to the Department of Conservation. They've given me a clear route that we can follow that has been a bit of a workaround. There was a landslip here a couple of years ago, and because of that landslip, there is a huge trench in the middle of the four-wheel drive track that we've been following. So we're going to make our way around that trench and see if we can navigate our way up to the side of this hill here, making our way down to the ball huts. And you can see the markers here the Department of Conservation have put up, and it goes right up here around this, so it is going to be pretty steep. So let's you ready? Yeah, let's do it. Well, I think that's the most technical part done and dusted. They do say it's an advanced track, so if you don't have experience or you're not confident with heights and things like that, yeah, probably not a good track to go on, but it wasn't too bad. We do have to do it tomorrow morning though. That'll be interesting. trail is much nicer, but the wind is starting to pick up now, so hopefully we don't get those 60-kilometer winds later. And we just saw a mountain goat up here, and it's a little bit in the distance, so a little hard to see. I believe it might have been a chamois, although we do have Himalayan tar up here, and we have the largest population of Himalayan tar outside of the Himalayas. So we just met a couple of people that had just come over the ball pass, which starts down at the end of the Hooker Valley Trail and makes its way right over the ridge that leads up to Aoraki Mount Cook, and they camped overnight up on the pass. They said they required some micro spikes, but it wasn't too technical and difficult, just as long as you got a good GPS to navigate your way across, because the path does disappear at times. But definitely gave us some ideas for a future hike, so that's a 2-day trip. Could be an interesting one. So we can finally see the ice of the glacier in the background there, without the debris of the moraine covering the bottom part of the glacier itself. It's crazy to think in the middle of the last glacial maximum, about 14,000 years ago, these valleys surrounding us here in the national park were all sculpted out of glaciers that were just absolutely enormous, in some places up to 2 kilometers thick. And you can actually see the round parts of the mountain when they start to get jagged. That gives you an indication of how high these glaciers were, even below, several hundred meters below. So it's just insane to think the force of nature created by these moving rivers of ice. That's 300-year-old glacial meltwater from the top of New Zealand's highest mountain, Aoraki Mount Cook. That is pretty spectacular. Okay, so you can see these little blackberries here. Whatever you do, do not eat those blackberries. They are actually the most toxic berry in New Zealand, responsible for the death of the very first sheep introduced to the country, and also an African circus elephant. Now, in tough times, the Maori down here actually had a way of extracting the seed from the inside of the berry, which they found out contained a poison which we now know is similar to arsenic, and they were able to compress the fruit of the berry itself into a paste and eat that. How they figured that out? Probably trial and error. And I should mention its name. It has the most innocent sounding name. It's called Tutu. So I assume this is what the lady from Doc was talking about when she's saying don't follow the old four-wheel drive path. This is right down here behind us. And then you can see there are some new markers up here on the hill which would indicate where they want the trail to go for one reason or another, most likely safety. So we're going to follow the trail that goes up, and hopefully that'll lead us to the right place. Sight for sore eyes. We finally made it. We can see down there the ball hut. Pretty amazing. In the background we've got the Tasman Peak, and just in the background there I believe that is part of Aoraki Mount Cook, New Zealand's highest mountain, 3,724 meters. Now, traditional way of summiting Aoraki Mount Cook was via the west coast, so you'd come over the western flank. But in 1948, a man named Sir Edmund Hillary came up here and summited it from this direction. But the reason why he did that is because he was preparing to summit Mount Everest, which he did 5 years later in 1953. So he was the first person with the Sherpa Tansy to summit Mount Everest itself, which is almost fitting that we're doing this trail here because we're preparing ourselves to go up to Everest Base Camp later on this year. Interesting to think that all of this is being eroded away by that collapsing glacier down there, just eating away at the lateral moraines that we're on right now and collapsing all these cliffs. So maybe in years to come there will be no ball hut up here because it seems as though it's all sort of disappearing. You can see the trail just ending up right in the moraine there. Okay, so this is the ball hut. A little bit cozy, right, Chicky?
Very cozy.
Miranda's got down there, and I think we've got a guest over here, and I'm up on the top bunk, and that's pretty much it. It's a shelter, but at least it's away from the wind. That's about as close as we're going to get to the Ball Glacier just behind me here, which meets up with the Tasman Glacier. It's funny to think that a few decades ago, in the mid-1900s, people used to actually go skiing here on the Ball Glacier. Obviously now there's way too much debris and way too much of those moraines collapsing. This is getting really, really intense, this wind. So we're gonna head back inside and have some dinner, and it looks like we're running out of light now anyway. Let's do it. You ready?
On our return back to the hut, we spot the first of the kias that the area is well known for. These alpine parrots are endemic to New Zealand and are known for their highly intelligent social behavior and interactions around humans.
So that was pretty cool. We had a cute little Kia fly over us. Kias are the world's only alpine parrots, and they are endemic to New Zealand. You'll find them nowhere else in the world, and they're one of the largest species of parrots as well. Now, Kias are so intelligent, they have the problem-solving capacity of about a 5-year-old, and they've actually been known to drag out traffic cones into the road because they're so used to people stopping and potentially feeding them, which is, by the way, a really bad thing to do because obviously our food, not good for native animals, but it also creates a dependence of human beings and has actually led to them getting into accidents, particularly on roads and things like that. So although it's quite cute and funny that they can do that sort of thing, please always respect wildlife. Getting ambushed. I've gone right here through this drain of this food thing. Little guys around here. I'm sure there's more. Sound like there were more. Oh, yeah, 5. Yeah, you're hiding over there. All right, how'd you sleep?
Got 2 hours max.
Yeah, didn't get a lot of sleep. Between the noisy Kias and the gusts of wind, which I believe probably did get up to about 50 or 60 kilometers last night. It was really howling out there. Yeah, probably not the best sleep. It's bright and early. I counted 9 Kia before I left there. So I had 7 originally, and then there were another 2 in the distance, and Oh God, it was noisy. And normally they go away after it gets dark, but I feel like last night they just didn't leave. They just hung around. So, and they're still following us.
Oh, there's one stalking us right now.
Well, there's one.
You see this one?
Which one? Yeah, he's just stalking us on the
Following
trail.
behind us.
You coming with us? He's joining.
Caught you right in the act.
They probably like the light on the camera. Still following you?
You see him.
Oh, there he is. See you, buddy. Excuse me, guys. Oh. It's pretty cool. I guess I'll see him at the next corner. So that's a record for us. 14 keys now. That's what I counted anyway. There's probably more hanging around that we can't even see. Oh.
Oh, hey. Thanks for the show, buddy.
It's pretty cool. It's a good thing we didn't camp last night because our tent would not have survived 1 second with all these guys around. They would have mauled it.
Eat the hut.
Yeah. I think eventually they'll win. I think they'll actually eat the hut one day. Excuse me. Coming through. Let's do the hot pot. Oh yeah. All right, we made it back to the car park. Yeah. What do you think about that trek?
It was beautiful. Lots of rocks.
Yeah.
We had very sore feet.
What do you rate it out of 10?
Views? Probably 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 for views. Wow.
Terrain? Too many rocks. 5 out of 10.
Come on. That's part of the challenge. That's half the fun. No, it's good. It's what will filter out the day hikers, Miranda.
Yeah, that's true.
It's what
There's
keeps
like
those
no one there.
so quiet. Yeah, it's amazing. All right, cool. We're heading back to Queenstown. I'm just outside the town of Twizel in the Canterbury region, and behind me here is a prominent location from the third Lord of the Rings film, Return of the King. You might remember the big epic battle scene that takes place in front of the white city of Minas Tirith, known as the Battle of Pelennor Fields. That was shot out here. And when they have that big charge scene of the men of Rohan charging for death, screaming down through the fields here, they actually broke a world record at the time for the most amount of people on horseback in a single scene in a film, which was 4,000 people. Now, in order to get 4,000 volunteers on horseback, they had to sort of put out casting calls around the country, anyone who had their own horse to bring them along for the day. The big issue was that they really needed 4,000 men, because if you've seen the films, the scene itself is almost like a feminist moment for Eowyn, the shield maiden of Rohan, who is the only female fighting in the battle. In fact, she kind of disguises herself like a man to actually get into the battle itself, because she makes this point that, you know, all of those that want to fight for those who they love, they should be able to. Obviously, that's under the preconceived thought that all these people out here fighting the battle are actually men, all those soldiers. So when they did the casting call, they actually put out to all the pony clubs in New Zealand, and predominantly what they got back were women, in fact teenage girls, and they don't at all look like big strong soldiers of Rohan. So in order to make them look like the big strong soldiers, they padded them up, put the armor on them, and then they had hundreds of makeup artists out here in the field gluing beards on each and every single one of them.
With less crowds and more stable weather, autumn is a great time to visit the Aoraki Mount Cook National Park and enjoy its relaxed serenity. For now, we say farewell to Aoraki, the Maori word for the mountain, meaning cloud piercer. Join us in our next adventure as we experience an epic spring in New Zealand's most famous resort town, Queenstown.
Hey guys, just a quick message. We really hope you enjoyed this video. Many hours of work goes into every single video we make, and we try to make them to the very best of our ability.
We take the time to choose the best travel destinations and the best adventure activities so that we can provide you with top-tier content.
However, the only way our channel can grow is with your help. If you enjoy our videos, please leave a comment letting us know, along with any questions you may have, or if there's anything you'd like to see more of.
Interactions in the comments section, along with liking our videos, is what gets us exposure on YouTube, along with sharing this video. If there's anyone you think would enjoy our videos, please share and help us grow global travel stories. We thank you for your support.